Guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome to Unspoken Words, where I am all about making the natural hair community an actual community and helping you to love, understand and know how to better care for your hair through the experiences and the DIY products and things that and challenges that I do with my own hair, and giving you my results, my honest, truthful results. Yeah. So if you'd like to see more of that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon as well, so that you know when I post new videos. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. It's been a while since my last video. I don't know if you've just like popped up from another video that you've watched of mine, or it's been a week since you've seen one of my videos. I don't know. Anyways, so I am thanking God for another new day and how beautiful and warm it is. So I thought, instead of actually doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing, I would come on here and record a video, because why not? Okay, so today is going to be, as you've already read from the title, my do's and don'ts of when it comes to hair trimming. I feel like with hair, when we hear trimming your ends in the natural hair community, it's like this, along with a lot of things, to be quite honest, there's just so much, it feels like contrasting opinions on when and where to do your hair or trim your ends. So I thought I'd make this video just to kind of put you on the right track on how to know when to trim your hair, your ends, whether to trim your ends, how often to trim your ends and things like that. So yeah, this is going to be the do's and don'ts of trimming your ends. So if you've seen in my previous video, I believe it is the video where I talk about how I grew my hair, or how I've grown my hair to the length that I currently have. I'll just put it in the cards up there. One of the things I do talk about is trimming my ends and why I do so, because it was something that I didn't used to do before, because I would hear people saying, oh, don't trim your ends, or you don't need to trim your ends, it's not necessary to trim your ends. Both on YouTube and also in my personal life, people who I talk to. So I didn't. But then when I started doing it, started experimenting a bit more, I realized that actually my hair is a lot more healthy by trimming my ends. And then I got a bit scissors happy and would trim it every time I twist my hair, which I then realized that actually, although it's great to trim your ends, how often I did it kind of hindered the growth. And as a lot of natural hair peeps, you know, goal is for waist length hair. I'm not going to get waist length hair if I keep trimming off both the good and bad sections of the ends of my hair, if that makes any sense. I hope that makes sense. I'll explain that further as we go along in the video, so let's get straight on to the first don't. Okay, so this is going to sound very controversial, but don't trim your ends as often as you think. Now, what I mean by as often as you think is, if you just kind of feel like, oh, I need to trim my ends, I'm going to trim my ends, doesn't mean you actually need to trim your ends. You just thinking you need to, but you don't actually need to, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm saying don't trim your ends as often as you think. It has to be based on what you're seeing when it comes to looking at your ends. So I'm going to post two different videos. One is of me where my ends are looking a little bit like sparse and really thin and straggly, but that's also, do also note that that is because I did African threading on my hair, so it has stretched out my hair, but also kind of exposed where I needed to trim my ends. And then I'm going to show the other video of where it's still the same, within the same month, where I've trimmed my ends, and you know, you can see the ends are very like, you know, like this, and it's not like straight and straggly, if that makes sense. But that's also because I haven't actually stretched it. So do bear in mind that when you do see the both videos, one is stretched of my stretched hair and the other one is of my hair not stretched, if that makes sense. So yeah, when it comes to understanding when to trim your hair, always look at your hair. You know, this is something that I feel like I stress a lot and say a lot on my videos, and that is, do what your hair needs, not just what other people are saying, including myself. because I can say and give you these tips, but if your hair doesn't actually need it, or your hair doesn't enjoy or like it when you apply certain things, then don't do it. Don't do it. Like, just don't do it. When your hair is looking not as curly as the other parts of your hair, yes, granted that our hair texture has, especially for me, I have different hair coil patterns all over my head. Some are looser than others, but you'll know when you're, you know, constantly doing your hair and looking at your hair and admiring your curl patterns, and you'll know when the way that your hair looks isn't healthy, if that makes sense. So for example, if the ends are looking like unnecessarily loose in terms of its coil, especially when you've like moisturized it and things like that, and it's still looking quite straight, then you know that your ends need to be trimmed. But just because it is slightly looser than the rest of your hair doesn't mean that it needs to be trimmed. Another thing that I've definitely seen, especially on TikTok, is that when they leave the hair in the afro or in a stretched state, and they kind of put their hands behind their hair, and then when they see through their hair, that's when they know that they need to trim their hair. And in a way, I understand where they're coming from, but I don't necessarily think that it is necessary to trim your hair just because you can see through it, or that light can pass through it more than it can with the other parts of your hair. And the reason why I say this is because when you think of, even when it comes to straight hair, right, it tapers at the end, especially when it's something that you intentionally do. It just tapers at the end. So why wouldn't it be the same with our natural hair as well? I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's kind of the thought process I'm thinking alongside of that. It might be making you trim your hair unnecessarily because, oh, somebody or a few people on TikTok, few naturals on TikTok said that if you can see a lot of light through or your hands through, then you need to trim your hair. Now, in certain circumstances, that is true, because if it's like a crazy amount, like it's too much of a difference, then yes, I would advise that, you know, trim your hair. But I don't know, this is why the natural hair journey, it is a personalized journey to you. That yes, you can take advice and what other people have done, but it may not necessarily work for you, and it may not necessarily work in the same way for you. So that's why it's always good to experiment and do these things. That's why I love experimenting, just to see what's good on my hair and what's not good on my hair, on what works and what doesn't work as well. The second don't is, do not use any kind of scissors that you find laying around the house to trim your ends. I have spoken to so many people, okay, not that many people, but I've spoken to people when I've been like, oh, do you trim your ends? And they're like, oh yeah, I do trim my ends. And I'm like, okay, do you use hairdressing scissors that are meant and made for trimming ends or hair? And they're like, oh no, I just use normal scissors, you know, like scissors you use to open a package or cut paper or whatever else people use scissors for around the house. And I'm like, no, do not use any kind of scissors. It has to be hairdressing scissors. I have two hairdressing scissors. Don't ask me why. Oh no, let me tell you why. It's because I lost the first one. I couldn't find it for like ages, so I was like, you know what, may as well just go and buy a new one, only to figure out that I end up finding it afterwards. But yeah, so I have two. So these are hairdressing scissors. Now they may not necessarily look like this with like little curve, as long as when you are buying it, it says hairdressing scissors, you know that they are for hair, to be used for cutting hair. So this is what mine look like anyway. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a bit dangerous. Just gonna, oh yeah, this is what they look like. Nothing really special. These are normal scissors. Don't ask me why it says I love tattoo on it, because I don't. I've had these for, I took from somebody else anyway. I didn't buy them myself. I don't really know if you can really see a difference. You can't really see a difference, not with your naked eye, but under the microscope is when you'll be able to see the actual difference. With normal scissors that I use around the house, the way that the ends are, where it's used to cut your hair, is very jagged. So when you're cutting your hair, you're basically just inviting more split ends because it's cutting your hair in a way that is making you or producing more split ends than necessary. So thus you're having to cut more and then seeing more split ends and you're wondering what on earth is going on. I'm trimming my ends, but I'm still seeing split ends because you're using the wrong type of scissors. You are using the wrong type of scissors. So you need to change the scissors that you use to hairdressing scissors. And the ends for the hairdressing scissors are a lot straighter. I don't know if they're like completely straight or like have like fewer or very small dips. I don't know. I'll if I can find pictures, I'll put it on here as well for you. But the whole point is that they are straight to the point where it reduces that kind of split ends that you get, and it's not causing split ends, if that makes sense. So that's why it is so important for you to use the right type of scissors when it comes to trimming your hair. So this next tip, I wasn't sure whether to put it in the do or the don't. So it's kind of like in the middle because, yeah, anyway. So the tip is basically be careful of how much you trim off, okay? Because a lot of people say, oh, trim off an inch, or I usually trim off an inch, or trim off a centimeter, or however amount they give you. But if you don't need to trim off an inch, or you don't need to trim off a centimeter, and just needs to be like a dusting type trim, then you know you're doing more harm than good by trimming off an inch when you don't actually need to trim off that inch, and you're not going to be seeing as much of a growth in terms of length retention. So this is again why I say take everything that you hear on the internet, period, but especially when it comes to the natural hair community, because there's so much that seems to be or tends to be so much confusion just because everybody's hair is different and reacts in different ways. So that's why some people are like, yeah, I can do it this way, and other people are like, I can't do it that way, that's not the way you should be doing it, do it this way instead. It's just because people experience with different products and things are different. That's why the hair journey is a personal journey. I'm only giving you advice. So even the things that I say, take it with a pinch of salt. So when it comes to when it comes to trimming your hair, just because somebody else is able to trim an inch off does not mean that you need to be trimming an inch off, because you may not need to. You may only need to dust your hair. And when they say dusting your hair, that's just like the very tiniest bit of trimming of your ends. So maybe like if you look at this one, for example, I don't know if you can really see it properly, but like that part that's kind of sticking out. So let's say that that's like the really tip of my ends, and it was straight, like really straight or unnecessarily straight, then I'll just kind of trim off that section and not like the whole part, if that makes sense. I wouldn't like trim off this part, I'll only trim off that little end part. So that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily you have to look at your ends. You have to be your own judge of whether an inch needs to be trimmed off, whether it needs to be dusted off, whether it needs to be a centimeter, etc. So you really just have to look at your own hair and your own ends and how your hair feels and looks and things like that to determine how much you need to trim. Okay, so now moving on to the do's of trimming your ends. So do trim as often as you need to. Some people say trim once a year, some people say trim twice a month, some people say trim once every 2 months. That's something that is personalized for them, and if you've tried it and you've seen that it works for you and that your hair actually needs to be trimmed that often, then do so. But if you find that your hair only needs like twice a year or once every 2 years or whatever the case may be, then do it that way. Don't be so scared and fearful that, oh, but everybody else is saying this, so am I doing it wrong? If you find that it is actually working for your hair, then do it that way. Another thing you need to remember is that your hair changes. So maybe you used to trim your hair every week or once every month, and then you're finding out that actually I don't need to be doing that anymore, that my hair seems to be a bit more healthier now and my ends seems to be a bit more healthier because, you know, yeah, it's just hair is healthier in general. So now actually all I need to do is trim once every 2 weeks or once a year. That's why it's so important to keep looking at your hair and examining your hair and seeing what your hair is doing at different points in time, because maybe in the winter time it's not doesn't need to be trimmed as much as in the summertime, or vice versa. You know, a lot of things will go into the mix of when or how often your hair needs to be trimmed, like the weather, the products that you're using, and how often you're using it, the things that you sleep with, sleep on or sleep with, so silk scarves and silk slash satin pillowcases and things like that, you know. And when you start seeing that different products are not helping anymore, you move to a different product and find that actually that new product is helping to reduce split ends and straggly ends and fairy knots and things like that, because you know you're being more gentler, or you're finger detangling, whatever the case may be. So your hair is going to change in terms of how it reacts and how it looks and how it feels. So if you used to be able to trim your hair or needed to trim your hair once a week, but now you're finding you only need to do it once a month or once every 2 months, then that's fine. Don't think that because this person that you so admire or these sets of people are so confident in their knowledge that you feel like you can't do what you can see and what you know needs to happen with your hair. I'm here to tell you, if nobody else has told you, I'm here to tell you, you do you, boo. You do you, boo. Like do what your hair needs, not what other people think your hair needs, or yeah, what other people think your hair needs or think that your hair wants, etc. And I think it's something that's not really said a lot in the natural hair community, is that your hair is like your skin, like your body. It's it's a personal journey. Basically, your hair journey is a personal journey. So the way that you live your life, the way that you interact, the way that your environment is, like here in the UK, you know, it's not always sunny, it rains a lot, and the humidity will be different from somebody who's living in Nigeria, for example, or in Australia or in the US. So always take into consideration your surrounding those factors when it comes to your surrounding and the products, and how the products even react to your surrounding as well, because how it reacts to your surrounding will determine how it will affect how it reacts on your hair, if that makes sense. And I'm saying if that makes sense a lot. I know that when I'm probably editing this, I'll be like, actually no, that really made sense. But anyways, I don't know how many videos of me saying your natural hair is a personalized journey. Yes, you can take some things from what people are saying, but if you find that it doesn't work for you, you don't have to keep doing it. You do not have to keep doing it. You know, there are things, the videos that I've made on my channel where I've been like, oh my days, this is great, this so works, this you know is doing this, and then I realized that a month later, sometimes not even a month later or a week later, that something's changed and I don't know what it is, but it's not working for me anymore. And sometimes it's just because of the product and the ingredients within the product, because sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I don't always read the ingredients on the products, and I know I should, and I'm working on it. I am working on it. This is my confession to you guys, because I know that I say you need to read the product, and you do need to read the ingredients on your products, but yeah, sometimes I'm just a bit too lazy and I really just don't care. But I'm working on it. I am working on it. That's why I like doing a lot of DIY, because it's just a little easier, because I know what I'm putting inside of what I'm putting on my hair. Anyways, so yeah, again, it is a journey. It is a journey. Please, 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 please understand that I don't know how else to put it, in what other ways to put it in for you to understand that it is a personalized journey. Okay, so yeah, that is basically it for this hair trimming video type thing. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as always. Let me know in the comments below how often you trim your hair, and if it's changed from the way you used to trim your hair before, or if you didn't used to trim your hair before and now you do, and what are your experiences on trimming your hair now, you know. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok and Instagram, all the other socials that I'm on as well. Yeah, so that is it for this particular video. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.